All right, we're going to jump right in. For weeks, we've been talking about Diamond Mind. And every time I've done an episode, I've taken a letter, whether it's D in Diamond or M for Mind, and I've done a half an hour. Now, I want to let you know that we're wrapping this up. Today's a bonus. Now, if you want to see this, some of you are listening on radio or on the internet, that's fine. But if you want to see these videos, go to Gregory Dwyer on YouTube. Just go into the search engine, type in Gregory Dwyer. All of the podcasts are there. And of course, I would love for you guys to subscribe and like it, and let's stay in touch. So today we're going to do a bonus, and here's how I thought about this. I want to summarize Diamond Mind potential. I want to summarize what we've been through, all of these different letters, all of these different lessons. And I thought to myself, if I only had a half an hour to sit down with someone and have a cup of coffee, what would I share with them? And this is based on 20 years of research, personal development, NLP, hypnosis, seminars, I mean everything. So this takes a lot to be able to take, 2 decades of everything that I have learned, everything that I've read, everything that I have absorbed, and I teach in my lecture, The Importance of Focus. If I just had 30 minutes and I could do a little bit of show and tell, what would I show and what would I tell? And I gave it a lot of thought. And for the first 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you one model, and then we're going to take a break, about 15 minutes in. And then the last 15 minutes, I'm going to share the second model. Now, I'm 60 years old. This is where I'm at. I think it's going to help you. I think I've condensed this, and I think if you take this to heart and put it into practice, it will help you not only to get focus, because let's face it, anybody can get focus. It'll help you to stay focused. The first thought, or the first model, I have to give credit where credit is due. The gentleman's name is Jerry Clark. Now, I started in direct sales many moons ago, and Jerry Clark and I crossed paths. We became friends, went to his seminars, went to his home, spent some time with him as far as mentorship, and he talks about something called the success triangle. I have to give him credit because he thought of this, he shared this with me. I'm sharing it with you, but I want to give him some credit here. Now, I've taken it to a higher level. There's many facets in a diamond, so this isn't just a triangle, it's a pyramid. I've taken it to the next level. But I want to give a shout out to Jerry Clark. If you have some interest in Jerry's work, just look him up and go to YouTube, type in Jerry Clark, Success Triangle, and you'll see some videos of him talking about this. Now, my model, my brand is a diamond, so I'm taking it to a diamond level. So if you're just listening to me, you got to use your imagination. Just think of a triangle with the point facing upward, right, towards the ceiling. If you're watching me, I'm actually on YouTube, and I'm showing a triangle with a triangle below it connected, which looks like a diamond. So what Jerry taught me was this. If you're going to be successful, if you're going to focus on your business or your personal life, you have to pick something and master it. Like, you can't do everything. I think I said this a couple weeks ago. You can't be a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, work on cars, want to do skydiving, 100 things. You just, there's no time to do 100 things. If you have a business card and it says you're a juggler and you're a magician and you do, I don't know, face painting and 10 other things on that business card, when someone looks at it, they're going to say, you're doing too many things. You're probably, you don't have mastery, right? You don't have mastery because you're not focused. You're not focused on one thing. So when it comes to branding, when it comes to life, you can't do everything. So the first thing he talks about is technical knowledge. I'm just going to make it TK for short because I don't have a lot of room here. So if you're looking at this, you can see this. I have a triangle, and at the base of the triangle, I have the letter T and I have the letter K. So what that means is you have to be really, really good at what you do. Like if you're a public speaker or you're in business, you work for someone else, you're in sales, you're in marketing, you're a manager, doesn't matter what it is. You really want to be an expert. You don't want to dabble. You don't want to dabble. You want to be really good and you want to be known for a specific thing. Like for me, I do this thing called the importance of focus. I don't do 100 speeches. I don't do 10 speeches. I don't do 3 speeches. I do one speech. You know, I do customize it, but I do one speech. It's called the importance of focus. I don't do 10. You know, I just do one. And I have been working on this for years. So what I'm sharing with you is really close to my heart. I just wanted to let you know that if you're going to focus on something, you really want to be good at it. So the technical knowledge is that you really know your material. You really know your material. You're not dabbling. You're not all over the place. You know, like if you're a web designer, you're really good at it. You know, if you're into code or you're into marketing, you're really good at it. If you're a magician, you're really good at it. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, you really want to focus and have technical knowledge. If you're into helping people with health, here's a great example. If you help people with their health and you don't know about health or you don't know about the body or you just, you know, you're kind of winging it, that's not good. So most people that I talk to who are in the health profession or the helping profession, whether it's hypnosis or sales or business or whatever it is, they tend to be experts in that. You know, they focus all of their attention on that versus the person that's just winging it, because winging it is not a good idea. The other extreme is to stop there and to say, you know what, I'm an expert at healing modalities. You know, I can do Reiki or I can do sales training or whatever it is. And that's all they focus on. You know, that's all they can handle. And I get it. You know, you kind of go down that rabbit hole and you focus all of your attention on that one thing. Now, it's important to start there. And if you're looking at this, you can see that this is a foundation. In other words, you have to have this. It's like building a house. You wouldn't build a house and call a roofer first. That's crazy. You want to make sure that you got a level ground and you got a level foundation. So the level foundation here is technical knowledge. You really got to be known as a person that knows what you're talking about and what you're doing. So what I'm sharing with you is based on over 20 years, 2 decades. I'm not just telling you things I heard about. These are things that have worked for me. That's really important. The same thing with what you're doing. Technical knowledge is really important. Now, the second thing that Jerry shared with me is this. He calls it internal dialogue. Now, I'm not going to write this out. I'm just going to, if you're looking at this, I have an arrow going inside of the triangle. Internal dialogue. What is this? This is how you talk to yourself. This is your self-esteem. This is your self-image. This is how you perceive yourself. Now, remember, a lot of our programming, you know, starts first, second, third, fourth, you know, it's foundational within the first 8 years. How you communicate with yourself is really, really important. Really important. You can have all of the technical knowledge about what you do. You can be an expert in your field. But if you're lacking this, which is self-esteem or confidence, or you're always walking around talking to yourself in a negative way, putting yourself down, this is going to hinder your life and it's going to also hinder your business. So when Jerry talks about this, he talks about knowing how to communicate to yourself. It's called inner communication, inner dialogue. There's many courses on this. There are many books on this. I've read a lot. I've gone to a lot of conferences. What it is really changing your communication style with yourself. Like if you're negative all the time, you have to change that. You can't go around being negative. And of course, when I first started in direct sales, you'd be up one day, down the next, up the next day, down the next. You know, if you're in real estate or you're outside sales, you have to be able to be level-headed emotionally. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your emotions. I'm talking about your inner dialogue. People who just have technical knowledge and they are terrible as far as internal dialogue or communication, and they're always depressed or they're always negative, I can tell you something right off the bat, this isn't going to work. So what Jerry's talking about is, number one, you got to have good technical knowledge, you got to know what you're talking about, and you have to be able to communicate to yourself really well, really well. The second thing that Jerry talks about is external dialogue. Now, I'm not writing this, I'm just making an arrow going outward, right? Because this is how you communicate to other people. Now, many years ago, I think it was 2016, I started doing speaking, and the title was called The Magic of Communication. Magic of Communication. I wanted to talk about this one aspect, how to communicate with yourself and how to communicate with others to create real magic in your life. And I did it for a couple years prior to COVID, and then I switched over to the importance of focus. But this is a key element. How you communicate, number one, with yourself, right? Internal dialogue, internal communication, and how you communicate with other people is really, really important. If you have a reputation in the community of you're a negative person, you put people down, you're just not able to communicate well with people, people don't like you, it doesn't matter how much information you have. If you have a terrible bedside manner, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you go to a professional, they really know their stuff, but they're terrible at communication, they're terrible at people skills, they don't have people skills. So I have a confession. I have a confession. Here's my confession. When I started looking at this, I knew I had a problem because I didn't have all the pieces together. I really didn't. The first step is awareness. So I actually went and worked for Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I actually worked for the company. And I'm embarrassed to say that they actually gave me an award, the Dale Carnegie Highest Achievement Award. I don't know why, but they did. And that changed my life, literally changed my life, because I realized that I could have all of the information about a topic, right? But if I didn't know how to communicate with myself really well, and I wasn't able to communicate with other people really well, it would be a disaster. And so you got to be able to do all of these three things. This is Jerry Clark's success triangle. However, I added something more to this, because this isn't just a triangle, this is a diamond. And I have to tell you a little bit of how I came about believing this and thinking this through. It was a guy by the name of Darren Brown. Most of you may not know him. He's very popular in Europe. He's a mentalist, he's a performer, sells out places all the time. So I saw this interview, and he was being interviewed, and they asked him, Darren, how is it that you are so successful? So successful. And he said this, I'll never forget it. He goes, on one hand, you have to be really, really good at what you do. So if you're a mind reader, magician, you're a salesperson, you're in real estate, you're in marketing, doesn't matter. You have to be really, really good at it. Technical knowledge, right? And then the other thing he said was, you have to be good at marketing. You have to be able to get your voice out there. And most artists are really good at creating art, but they can't sell. Most people have a problem with either one or the other. They're really great at selling, but they sell junk. You know, I've been ripped off. I've bought things that they promise you the sky and the moon, and then when you get it or you don't get it, you realize they're just great salespeople. They don't deliver on what they're selling. So about 25 minutes later into the interview, the gentleman asked Darren Brown again a question. Said, you know, what's the secret to the success that you have? And he went right back to this. He said, there's two things. Number one, you got to be really good at what you do. Like you have to be an expert. And then you have to be able to market it. You have to be comfortable with negotiation and sales and marketing. So, based on what I heard, and I'm looking at the halfway mark, I want to say this really quick, is the last two sections of the diamond are sales and marketing. Sales and marketing. You got to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got to have these 5 facets at least. And if you're focusing on just one, you're probably not going to get a lot of traction. So number one, just to recap, technical knowledge, have to know what you're talking about. You got to be really good, don't dabble. Number two, you got to be able to communicate well to yourself. Number three, you got to be able to communicate to other people, especially your value. And then you have to be comfortable with selling. Selling, I know it sounds like a dirty word or a bad word, but nothing happens in this world without sales. You got to sell. And don't confuse marketing with sales. Posting on Facebook or social media, it's not sales, that's marketing. All right, so if I only had 15 minutes, I'm looking at the time, we're at 16 minutes. If I only had 16 minutes, that's what I would share with someone. Jerry calls it the success triangle. I call it the success diamond. So we're going to take a 30-second break, and then I have something more to share with you. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
BuildingFortunesRadio.com. Do you wish you could sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more? Then you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at GregDwyerEbook.com. That's www.GregDwyerEbook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio. Motivational speaker, Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
All right, we're back. We only got 12 minutes. I want to get this across to you. Like I said, if this was my last video, these are the two things that I would share, because this has really summed up everything that I've learned in 20 years if I had to summarize it. Now, what I know with most people, and I've said this a million times, it's easy to get focused. You know, think of New Year's Eve resolutions, right? People get focused. There's something about the culture, the end of the year, December 31st. Okay, I want to lose weight, make more money, whatever. Relationships. There's only so many categories, right? People get focused all the time. And then they get distracted. You know how it is. People go to conferences. They get really excited. Monday morning, they're back to where they were before. People read a book. People that I have followed, like people like Donald Miller, they say the number one challenge with people who buy a course, read a book, go to a seminar, get enlightened, right, is they don't execute. Very, very few people execute. What I mean by that is you go to a seminar, you read a book, you listen to a seminar on video or whatever. It's a small section of the population that actually follow through. It's really small. Like even going to a bookstore and buying a book, most people don't even get past the first chapter. They don't even read it. I'm guilty. And if they do get past the first chapter and read the rest of the book, very few people actually follow through with this new behavior. So that's why I came up with this lecture called The Importance of Focus. What is it about the small group of people who stay focused? Like, what's the magic? What's the secret? I was obsessed about this. I wanted to know myself, so I began to study this. And, and when I went on Google, there were things that they say, get a good night's sleep, exercise, get out in nature, take breaks, rest, listen to music. I get all of that. That's not enough. Or if you clean up your workspace, or you work offline, or don't drink caffeine and have a balanced diet and have a to-do list, that's going to be the answer. Well, I don't think that's the answer. I do not think that's the answer. So over the last 5 years or so, I've been looking at this, testing this out in the real world, and this is what I've come up with. What I have here is 2 triangles. Now, again, if you can only hear me and not see me, just go to Gregory Dwyer on YouTube. You'll see the video. You can watch it later. I have 2 triangles that form a diamond. Now, here's the difference. The difference is there's a gap between the top triangle and the bottom triangle. So the top triangle has the word ACT, A-C-T, and the bottom triangle has the letter no. People know what to do. There's so much information out there about how to lose weight. There's so much information out there about how to be financially free or to be able to retire well. There's so many books out there about relationships. There's no lack of knowledge. We have so much knowledge. We're overwhelmed with knowledge. Why is it that there is a gap between what people know and what they're going to do or the action that they're going to take? Now, the reason why I put a gap, it's not a complete diamond, because there's a space between the bottom triangle and the top triangle. Here's what I've discovered. It's scary. It's chaotic. It's not comfortable. So the space between the two triangles, which is right here, is chaos. It's just doesn't feel good. It does not feel good. Right? So people will go to a seminar, they'll read a book, they'll listen to me perhaps. Monday morning, they're not going to pick up the phone, they're not going to follow through. What's the secret? What's the secret? Well, the first thing I shared, you got to have great technical knowledge, you got to be really good at communicating with yourself and others, you got to be good at sales, you got to be good at marketing. That's the first part of the book, right? The second part of the book is here. This is the secret sauce, and I'm giving it away, not holding anything back. I have nothing to sell to you. This is what, oh, we're almost out of time. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to tell you next week. No, I'm just kidding. So what's the answer? This is what I think. It's not more knowledge. It's not more knowledge. You know, at first I thought, well, if you just knew more things, you would do more things. That's not what it is. I don't think that's what it is. So what I came up with is this. Number one, people who are really successful, they know what is important to them. Without a shadow of doubt, they know with laser focus what is important and what is not important. Right? There's a lot of distractions in the world. They have thought about this. They have dug deep into their other than conscious mind or their subconscious mind, and they have pinpointed, this is what's really important. My retirement, my relationships, my career, whatever. They know. So when you ask them, they can tell you, you could wake them up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they would tell you. Okay? This is characteristics, or these are characteristics of successful people. They know. They're not the average person, which by the way is below average, which says, I don't know, I'm not sure, we'll see. Well, I'm kind of, well, no. These people are obsessed. They are obsessed, okay? That's the first point. The second point is this, and I share this in my lecture called The Importance of Focus. They know how to get results in advance using, are you ready? Their imagination. Now I am going to draw a sun. This is a sun. And this is water. This is water. So if you're looking at this, you can see this. I got two triangles, and in between the gap, I have a little bit of water, and I have a sun there between the gap. And I'm also going to put a boat in the water with a sail, just like that. The name of the boat, by the way, is called the SS Imagination. SS Imagination. All right, so what is this about? Well, when I first thought of this, I thought about putting the word...
You've been listening to the Great Dwyer Radio Show. Brought to you by... You've been listening to the Great Dwyer...
Sorry about that, I want to shut that off. When I first thought about this, I thought about putting the word imagination there. Just the word imagination. But then it came to me, imagination is not necessarily a word. Sure, it's a symbol, but these are better symbols. So there's three symbols here. One is the water, the other one is the sun, and the other one is the boat. Imagination, what people see, what people feel, what people hear. People who are successful, people who are really focused, not only do they get focused, they stay focused, they train their mind using their imagination to get results in advance. Now, this is not new. This has been around for years. As a man thinks, this idea that, without a vision, people perish. So everything is created inwardly first and then outward, right? So the thing that keeps them, I guess I could put an anchor here, couldn't I? Yeah, I could put an anchor. I never thought of that. Maybe I'd put a little anchor here. We'll see if that works. I have to think about it. All right, so the thing that keeps them anchored so that they don't drift, oh wow, that's pretty cool. I never thought of that before. But I don't know if you want an anchor on a sailboat. I have to think that through. All right, so you got the anchor in the boat in the water and the sun. What's it all about? It's about knowing what you want and using your imagination by what you see, what you feel, and what you hear. Not just on December 31st. Every single day of their life. In the morning when they wake up, when they go to sleep at night, this is the focus. And then the last thing, the third point, is they take action no matter how they feel. So here it is. I shared with you the success triangle. I'm going to call it the success diamond. And then I'm going to share this with you too. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I think it's the answer to how to get focused and stay focused. And when I discovered this, I realized that I knew this as a kid when I was probably 12, 13 years old. Because I was inspired by sleight of hand. I was inspired by Doug Henning and David Copperfield and Blackstone Jr. and I wanted to be a magician. And no one could tell me no. I was only like 10 years old, 11 years old. And I remember how I did it. How I went from a simple coin trick to working backstage for Doug Henning and having my own illusion show. It was a 3-step process. Now you got to realize I didn't have a family, didn't have a mortgage, and I didn't have people telling me no. And I didn't have anybody discouraging me. They just told me that I could do this and I believed them. Here's the 3 things that I did. Number 1, I knew what I wanted. I had no doubts about it. No doubts whatsoever. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and be. Number 2, I always thought about it. I dreamt about it. In fact, when I stopped doing magic professionally, I must have dreamt magic and magic shows and being on stage for over 10 years. That's how much it was embedded in my unconscious or other than conscious mind. All I did was focus on magic, magic tricks. I thought about it, I talked about it, I saw it, I felt it. It was a complete obsession. And then lastly, I just took action. Now, I'm talking 10 years old, 13 years old, 15 years old, all the way up until I was, my late teens. And I became a magician, and that's what I did. What's the secret? The secret is to stay focused. And a way to stay focused is to simply use your imagination. Know what you want, see it, feel it, hear it, and then just simply take action. So I want to thank you for following me these last 12 weeks. This is a bonus, and again, if I were to share this with you because I only had a half an hour, these are the 2 things that I would share. Number 1, you got to be really good at what you do. You got to be able to communicate well to yourself and to others. You got to be good at sales. You got to be good at marketing. And the last thing here is you have to be able to know what you want, use your imagination, and to act. So until next time, stay focused. Can you imagine that? I hope you can. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Great Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. Check out Greg at GregDwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at GregDwyerEbook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.GregDwyerEbook.com. We want to thank you for listening, and go make a difference in your world.